What's up, YouTube, and welcome to my pickups video for the month of July 2021. This month I did get to do some travel. I took a week-long trip to the Pacific Northwest at the beginning of the month, and got to really see more of the states of Oregon and Washington than I'd ever visited before. Primarily when I go out there, I'm going to things like the Portland Retro Gaming Expo or working in a trip to Seattle. This time I got to explore both of the states a little bit more and visit some other cities. I got to visit Bend, Oregon, and see, of course, the last Blockbuster. Went to the Tri-Cities in Washington, places like Yakima, Washington, and then just kind of everything in between with all the mountains and everything. So very interesting trip. Just got a lot of cool driving in and getting to see more of the countryside of both states. It did time crunch me a little bit as far as my experience in Seattle and Portland, but I did get some game hunting in those as well. In some stores I'm more familiar with from prior trips. So definitely got a lot of things in this video from that trip, along with a few local items and a couple things from online as well. So we'll go ahead and get started. I'll show you a few of the games I got this month. First one of these is a local find I got a few weeks ago. This is Toe Jam and Earl Panic on Funkotron, complete in the box, minus the fruit roll-up that the game originally sold with. So I do not have that, unfortunately, 25-year-old goodie inside of the box to be rotting away. But other than that, it is complete. I've owned this game on cartridge only for probably about 15 years, and just for some reason never upgraded this one. I have the first Toe Jam and Earl complete, and ultimately I'm not a huge fan of the series. I think the characters are interesting, but the gameplay is just kind of blah in these, so this one especially is not even as good as the first one. But, you know, just happy to have it. It's just another piece of the Genesis history I felt was kind of necessary as it is a console exclusive, so I decided to go ahead and get that one. Another thing I picked up last month was starting to get into some of the Castlevania 3D games from the last few generations of game consoles. I completely skipped over those when they came out because I just thought Castlevania should always be in 2D, but now I'm trying to track some of these down and at least give them a chance. So I also got Castlevania Curse of Darkness for the Xbox. I picked up the first one of these 3D Castlevanias on this generation of hardware last month for the PS2. And then this is kind of the sequel to that one, or, you know, not necessarily a sequel, but the follow-up to that one. So, looking forward to checking this out. I haven't had a chance to pop this one in yet. I thought the first one that I played last month was okay, at least kept my interest for a little bit, so maybe this one's a little bit better. I don't really know why I wanted this one on Xbox. I thought it might be a little bit better graphically than the PS2 experience, so happy to have this one. It's not incredibly expensive or anything like that, but I just figured it's one that I should probably go ahead and track down, as it seems like there are a lot of people now going for like full Castlevania sets and things like that. So just nice to have another piece of the Castlevania series in my collection. So kind of along those lines, I got a new release that came from Limited Run. This is one I ordered a few months ago and kind of forgot about. And this is obviously heavily inspired by Castlevania. It is Bloodstained Curse of the Moon Part 2. I have the first one as well, and I thought it was pretty good. It was more in line with the first NES Castlevania. This one is, I think, trying to go for more of the experience of like Castlevania 3 on the NES. I did play this a few hours. I don't know, for some reason I like the first one better. Maybe it's just because it feels like more of the same. I like, you know, these tribute NES style games, but they're kind of wearing a little bit thin. I wish they would do a little bit more with the graphics and maybe make it like an NES Plus experience, you know, do some things that the NES wouldn't even be capable of. There probably is a little bit of that in the game, but I just feel like it could be stretched a little bit further. So, played it a little bit. I don't know if I'll go back to it. We'll see. But, you know, it is solid if you like the original style Castlevania games and aren't really down with the Metroidvania type experience. One thing I thought was kind of neat, the limited run through in the box, was just a promotional newsletter, but it did have the style of an original game fan, and since I'm a big collector of those, I thought it was kind of cool that they threw that in. The writing in this is pretty weak, but overall they tried, so you know, nice to have that tribute to the original game fan type magazine covers. So probably my biggest game splurge of the Seattle and Portland trip was I did get this game in Seattle for the Turbo Duo, a system that I always like finding games for, especially in stores. I just don't see them hardly ever in the Midwest. And this was one that was big on my want list. This is Dungeon Explorer 2 for the Turbo Duo. I've owned the first Dungeon Explorer for a long time. I also have Dungeon Explorer on Sega CD and even the PSP Dungeon Explorer games. But I've always wanted this one for the Turbo Duo. This one's been very tough to find. You can get the Japanese PC Engine version of this really cheap, but it does have quite a bit of text in it, so it's a game that I wanted to play in English. If you've never played one of these, they're kind of like enhanced Gauntlet-style games with more heavy action RPG type storylines and things like that in them. This one has a lot of voice in it, which is kind of neat. It's, you know, a little cringeworthy like most of the Turbo Duo voice acting, but it's not the worst by any means. So very happy to get this, and you know, this is one that I'd been trying to get this game for years, and I kept getting sniped on eBay. Like every single time I bid on this game, I would never win it. So it was just one of those things, like I saw it in a store, I'm like, I'm done. I'm just gonna get this, and I don't have to worry about trying to find this game anymore. So very happy to get this. I did play it, you know, about a week or so after I got back, and really enjoying it so far. I'll probably put some more time into it, as I think these are pretty neat games, and, you know, fly a little bit under the radar with some of the more popular Turbo Duo and TurboGrafx releases. So pretty cool, and, you know, I just want to give a little special shout out to the artwork on it. I think it's really awesome, especially when you compare it to the first Dungeon Explorer game on TurboGrafx. It had pretty scary artwork on it. But this one looks really nice, so I'm glad they kept that Japanese artwork for the cover. Also moving on to some Game Boy releases, I got a couple of these on the trip as well. This was a game that I saw in one of Mr. Dude's videos, just kind of, he was casually flipping through his Game Boy games, and I was like, a pinball game for Game Boy that I don't have? Tell me more! So this is Hiro Shugo for Japanese Nintendo Game Boy. They did not release this game in the US. It could have easily come out here. It was an early Game Boy release, and it's fully in English. The physics in this game are a little bit weak, and it did come out after the HAL pinball game, the Gator, Revenge of the Gator. Couldn't think of the name. It came out after that, so it was kind of inexcusable, some of the play quality of this. It does have some of the Jericho characters in it, so you'll notice it's got characters from Ninja Jaja Maru-kun and you know, Buta-san and things like that. So if you're really into the Jericho lore, you'll see some character cameos in the game. I did end up playing it for a couple hours regardless. I just kind of got that zone out mode where I can really get into video pinball games. And, you know, it's at least playable. But nice to have another pinball game for the Game Boy. You know, again, a little unfortunate this one didn't come out here. But I found it complete in the box in Portland, and I figured, you know, might as well go ahead and grab it. So, not a very expensive game if you want to check this out, but I thought it was at least worth a game, you know, a play or two. Another game I got as an upgrade while I was in Portland was a boxed copy of Operation C. Kind of neat with this purple artwork on the spine, or, you know, purple coloring. Obviously a part of the Contra series. This was the first game that came out on the original Game Boy. It's okay. I mean, again, you know, kind of has some limitations of the early games that came out on the system. But, you know, if you like Contra, it's a pretty good game. I thought I had the manual for this already at home, and it turned out I didn't. So now I'm searching for the manual for this so I can make it complete. But the box and cartridge are in nice shape, so I was pretty happy to find this. But definitely a nice find while I was out hunting around. I did get one box for the NES I didn't have. This one's not in mint shape by any means, but it is the original Gyromite in the Nintendo Black Box. Thought this would be kind of nice to have in the collection. I don't even have a box for my Rob, but I do have the robot, so I can play this game. So not a whole lot of fun, doesn't really hold up today, but you know, definitely a piece of the early Nintendo hardware lore, in that this is one of 2 games that supported the robot. So nice to have that, and you know, another Black Box game in the collection. So the rest of this video is going to be very heavy on manuals. Believe it or not, that was the biggest thing I found on my trip to the Pacific Northwest, is most of the game stores up there do sell loose manuals, which I think is great. Seems like most of the stores around me they don't want to sell them separately. So I thought it was pretty cool. I flipped through manuals at a lot of stores I went to, and ultimately knocked off a bunch of NES manuals off my want list. I am getting a little bit closer to having a full set of NES manuals, so I'm like kind of debating, do I want to go all in on this and finish the set? But I definitely got a big one off my list that I'm very happy to have this month. So we'll show you a couple other things first. This one is kind of neat. I didn't even really know this existed. This is the Ys Book 1 and 2 map for the TurboGrafx CD. So I have the Turbo Duo pack-in version of the game, and it never came with the map or the outer box that the retail release came with. I didn't even know that this was included in the retail version of the game that was sold separately and earlier a few years. So it's really neat. I like the Ys series, and I just think it's you know, a cool piece of the collection. I'd really like to find the box, and then I guess now ultimately the full retail version of that to put this with down the line. But I was really excited to find that, because I didn't even know it was it was a part of the complete set for that game. Another manual I found that I was really excited about. This one completed my copy of this game, and this is Goemon's Great Adventure. Easily one of my favorite games on the N64, and it is a console exclusive. And, you know, I found the box for it, I guess, about a year ago, so I was really hunting down the manual, and it was neat just to find it in a store while I was out on the trip. So, very happy to have that game complete and put that with it. One that I am way more jazzed about, though, than that, this game is one that I've owned in the box probably for about 20 years and never had a nice manual for it. So I splurged and bought a separate manual for Panic Restaurant on the NES, which is not only a Taito game, but one of my favorite NES games, period. Really happy to have this to complete my copy of the game, and my box is in great shape, so ultimately it's going to be a nice, clean copy to have all around. Next up on my big want list is to get a manual for Little Samson, so if anyone has a separate manual for that, that'd be really nice to find. But ultimately, I was really excited to find this. Again, you know, just seeing something like this in a store, you're like more inclined to buy it than if you're seeing it on a computer screen and you're not sure about the quality. They, you know, were happy to let me flip through it and make sure that it didn't have any handwriting in it or anything like that, or water damage, and ultimately I got a really clean copy of that, so very happy to find that this month. Actually quite a few more NES manuals is what I'm going to show you next. So I got a couple manuals for the Bible games on NES. This is Joshua and the Battle of Jericho, and you can see it has kind of this unique, you know, vertical design compared to the rest of the manuals. They're more horizontal in orientation. And then you also have King of Kings, another one of the Bible games. I got Defender of the Crown. One that I'm really excited about. I'd like to get the box for this one. The manual is incredibly boring looking, but this is Stinger, which is also part of the Twin Bee series. It's the original Twin Bee game, and ultimately a very playable shooter for the NES that not a whole lot of people talk about. So I'd really like to, again, get the box for this because it has pretty cool artwork on it, but the manual is blah. So anyway, happy to have it. Also got a manual for Ghostbusters 2, Home Alone, nothing too crazy there, Defender 2. This one's pretty cool. Puss in Boots, a game by Electro Brain that was based on a Japanese anime, so kind of neat to have that. Sesame Street 1, 2, 3, and believe it or not, there are 5 Sesame Street games on NES, so a lot of manuals you have to suffer and buy. Break Time, which I think is a more uncommon game than people give it credit for. This was a pretty late release for the NES. So, you know, there's a couple other pool games that I think are more common than this one, and it doesn't really go for a whole lot. We have 720, the arcade skateboarding game. We have a variant here. This is RBI Baseball, but this is the licensed NES version. There was, more commonly was found in the unlicensed Tengen boxes, and this was the one that Nintendo licensed, and the manual is actually different for it. Then you have the, you know, more typical Tengen-style manual, this really long design for RBI Baseball 3. And then we have Nobunaga's Ambition. I believe this one also came with a map. I don't have that yet. And then we have Wheel of Fortune Junior Edition. I think there's also like 5 Wheel of Fortune games on that system. It's kind of overkill. Here's another unlicensed one. This is Master Chu and the Drunkard Hugh. Always like that title, by Color Dreams, one of the more notorious unlicensed companies. And then we have the second Wizardry game for the NES, which comes in this big, tall-style RPG-type manual for Wizardry 2, which is the Knight of Diamonds. So pretty nice to have that as well. So, like I said, that was really the bulk of what I was buying out there, was just a whole lot of manuals. But really excited to find all that stuff. You know, again, I could buy all those things online, but manuals, you start adding shipping into it, it's just not a very good buy anymore. So, really excited to get that stuff. Please take a moment. Thank you for watching, and please take a moment. Like, comment, subscribe. Let me know what you think. I will talk to you soon. Have a great day or night, wherever you are.